You're listening to the Redefining Wealth Podcast with Patrice Washington. Welcome back. We are winding down this season, and man, oh man, have I learned so much about today's topic just in the last, I would say, several months here. And if you're brand new to Redefining Wealth, welcome. I'm so excited to have you. Here's what you should know. Wealth is so much more than just money and material possessions. What I've been teaching from here for the last 7.5 years is that the genuine, original definition of wealth is the condition of well-being and happiness. And so the 6 pillars of wealth that I teach from are really about sharing with you that there are so many other parts of your life that impact your finances, even when you're not thinking about it. And one of those things is the fact that we are always going at such a fast pace. We don't realize how we're actually in jeopardy of jacking up those finances that we talk about desiring and wanting because we're not taking care of ourselves mentally, physically, spiritually, relationally, and so many other ways. And inevitably, that always will catch up with us. And that's not what we want. We don't want to wait for the boulder before we decide to do something different. We want to be a community of people that know when it's time to pivot because of the pebble. And that pebble is just that whisper, that still small voice that says, you're going too fast. This is too much. You have to slow down. You must stop something. But many of us think that if we adhere to the whisper, then we're going to miss out on all the blessings and the promotions and the raises and the big financial abundance and all those things. But the reality is we usually burn ourselves out and then we can't even enjoy the things that we say we desire. So this is an invitation today to learn and maybe relearn something that I've been learning and relearning through therapy, through love, through lived experience, that it's time to go at the pace of peace. So I'm going to read our affirmation of the week, and then we'll jump in. Your affirmation of the week is, I trust the pace of peace in my life. I honor that slowing down is not a step back. It is a sacred recalibration. I release the need to prove my worth through urgency and through overproduction. I welcome emotional safety, margin, and alignment as my new success indicators. And I give myself permission to live, to build, and to become at a pace that honors who I truly am in this season. Affirm with me today, I trust the pace of the peace that is unfolding. So let me tell you how I got to this episode title, The Pace of Peace. It happened during therapy not that long ago, where I was sharing with my therapist that for so many years, it was easy for me to discern between what I called good opportunities and God opportunities. You ever work so hard in your career, in your life, to be recognized, to be known, to be called upon for the work that you love? That is what we're all here to do, right? Is to really understand what our purpose is in this iteration of our existence and to be a blessing doing the things. But then there comes a time when you teach people that you are the one to call all the time, no matter when, no matter what. And as Dr. Patrice Buckner Jackson says, and they believe you. And a lot of us, because we honor that belief, lead ourselves straight into burnout. And I was at this point where I was talking to my therapist and I said, I've learned to discern between good opportunities and God opportunities. It's no longer where I have to choose between something that's phenomenal and something that's just not a fit. In this season, it feels like so many things are a fit. And I love it all. I love speaking. I love coaching. I love this podcast. We're going on 8 years, over 20 million downloads. I absolutely love coaching in the Institute for Redefining Wealth. I love coaching in my mastermind, Mastering Momentum for High Achieving Women. I love satellite media tours. That's what I do for brands. I love Opportunity Knots. That's the award-winning television show that I'm on PBS. I love absolutely everything that I get to do. Plus, I love how I honor myself in all the pillars, whether that is working out consistently or having a really great relationship with my partner and my daughter and my mother and girlfriends, or the way that I express my faith, all of the pillars. I love how I'm doing it all, but I don't like that I say that I value peace and also my calendar continues to be so full. Does anyone know what I'm saying? Where you're like, I like all the things, but when you see it really laid out on your calendar, you wonder, does this really reflect peace? Does this really align with me saying that I value peace? And if you've been around here for a while, you know your girl has been on this struggle bus for quite some time. And let me just say this, I've said it for all 7.5 years of this podcast. I have never seen myself as a guru. I have never seen myself as someone who's a perfect 10 that has it all figured out. If I left this earth today as a 7, I'm just here to guide the 1 through 6s and share with you some of the things that I'm working through, how I'm working through them, what tools I'm using, and just reflection questions that hopefully are a blessing to you. So back to me being on struggle bus. So not too long ago, I was speaking to my therapist and I was telling her that something that I'm really realizing is that as I work towards more and more alignment, even things that I really enjoy seem to be where I need to make a decision about how they're showing up in my life, how often, when I'm going to do it, where I'm going to do it, all those things, because it's still interrupting the slower pace that I actually desire. And so the way that I was talking about it was, I just feel like I have to get rid of some things. And she's like, well, what is it that you no longer like? And I often talk about frustration is an invitation to take inventory. So I was already taking inventory and looking at all of the things that I do, but I really wasn't getting down to, I need to get rid of this and this and this, because I actually have done so much work throughout the years on really aligning myself in such a way that none of it seemed like I needed to get rid of it. And we were talking about all of that. And she said, well, if you love those things, why would you want to remove that joy from your life? Why would you be trying to strip yourself of that? Why do you think there's something wrong with the path? Excuse me. Why do you think there's something wrong with the path that you're on? And I had to really sit with that and think about it. And I want to ask you too, if you have felt like I'm doing too much, I'm a classic do too mucher, where are my checklist makers, my high achievers, sometimes overachievers, where you have all the things, but it does excite you, it does exhilarate you, it does feel good. And you've been working through all the stuff and you're like, I got to get rid of something. Something's got to go, but you're having a hard time narrowing down what that is. These next few words were a big aha for me. She said, Patrice, what if it's not the path, it's just the pace? What if it's not the things that you're doing, it's just the pace that you're doing them at? If removing these things would remove joy from your life, maybe it's not about removing them. Maybe it's about examining and interrogating the pace at which you're doing them. Do you have to do the podcast every single week for 52 weeks a year? The reality is our podcast has actually thrived when we have gone to seasons. And because I was more so leaning into somebody else's advice and the pace at which they like to work and how it occurs to them in their business, I put myself back in a position that was really kind of, if you will, outpacing my own desire and my own capacity in this season. And so while, yes, I love the podcast, do I have to do it at this pace? When you think about your coaching clients, you love coaching, you love serving, but do you have to have so many calls? Do you have to actually have so many one-on-one clients? Or is there a different pace that you could go at? Do you see where I'm going with this? I want you to also reflect for yourself, just as I'm doing in this season. Is it truly the path that I'm on? Is it the things that I'm doing, even though they all feel purposeful and aligned for me? Or is it the pace that I'm going at that's the problem? Something that has really occurred to me is that this has really illuminated because I'm in such a different season of my life. And being in a newer relationship, a healthy relationship, a grounded relationship has really given me the desire for more and more margin. Having emotional safety in relationship has really chipped away at the need for any external validation, which means what I did a couple years ago, which was bend to someone else's advice, ideas, or thoughts about how often I should do the podcast, as an example, really put me back in a pace that I had already departed from. Whenever we are still leaning more into external validation than we are our own internal intuition, our own emotional safety, our own deep conviction about knowing what we need, want, and desire, we're going to keep finding ourselves leaning back into those cycles and seasons. I call it sitting at the bar of complexity. You've probably heard me talk about this before. I talk about it with clients all the time. We keep putting ourselves in these seasons and cycles of confusion, saying, well, I don't know what to do. What's wrong here? Why do things feel off? The reality is we do know what to do, but somewhere along the way, we've gone back into believing that other people's best practices are what's best for us. And the truth is, whenever we can release that idea, when we can release shiny object syndrome, where you're like, oh, I should do this, I should do that. Oh, that looks great. Oh, they're working that, right? We can create so much space to really operate at the pace that feels good to us. And operating at that pace is not lazy. It does not mean that you don't want to be great. It does not mean that you can't be successful at whatever it is you're putting your heart, your mind, and your intentions to. It means that it gets to look different for you in this season, and we get to make that okay. And it reminded me of something Steve Harvey has taught me since I was 19 years old, when I was his intern back in the day, which is you don't get what you want, you get what you believe. And even though we say we want peace, we want grace, we want ease, many of us fundamentally do not believe that we can have the success, the career, the finances, the whatever we desire without it being stressful and hard and tumultuous. We don't believe that we actually can hold it and have it and possess it while simultaneously holding and having and possessing peace. And so it's not that it's not available to us. It's literally the lens in which we look at it, which is why I'm so grateful for therapy and a great therapist. And I'm grateful for a phenomenal coach that hold me to the standards that I say I desire for myself, right? Because what it's given me is an opportunity to really just, again, have permission. I think that's the same thing I do for most of my clients. I serve brilliant women. And it's not that they don't know better. Sometimes it's just the permission to just be in this season, the permission to own that you desire a rhythm that's a little slower, a rhythm that's more deliberate, but still has full purpose. It's still full of joy. It's still full of all the things that you really want. But you want it while valuing rest, while valuing margin, while valuing your self-care, your relationships, right? We talk about the pace of grace, but we don't give ourselves permission to actually experience that. And something that I had to remind myself of, even in this season, as my daughter is now graduating high school, and for so many years, I thought to myself, oh, I'll take a step back because I want to be present for Reagan. I want to be present during her high school years. I don't want to be on the road all the time. I don't want my calendar to always be full. I want to go to the basketball games and the football games and help her get ready for the dances. I just want to be there. And I realized that I was so much more willing to give myself permission to have more grace, more margin, more peace when it was for someone else. And now that I'm in this season where she is such a confident, self-assured young adult, you just heard her on the podcast just last week. She is very independent and she doesn't need me like that, right? And so I was thinking about when it was for Reagan, I was willing to give myself permission to say, hey, I'm taking a sabbatical. Hey, my daughter has something going on this weekend. Hey, this spring break week is blocked because my daughter, which is wonderful and beautiful and why I got into entrepreneurship. But the reality is, I have to create that same space when it's just for Patrice. When it's not attached to anyone else needing me. When it's not attached to my childhood dream of making sure I was a present mother. That was a beautiful dream. But I also get to dream a new dream now that my daughter is in a different season. And so what does pace and space and margin and grace look like for me in this season now? Because I have to honor what's true for me now, right? And so I want you to think about, was it easier for you to even create space and pace yourself a bit more when it was about your children or your spouse or maybe aging parents that you might be caring for? And what does that look like for you now? What type of pace do you want to have in this season of your life? I've talked before about the bow and arrow season. It's a really popular episode here. We'll link to it in the show notes. It's called Embrace Your Bow and Arrow Season. And it's really just this idea that slowness or feeling like you're being pulled back is not always to hold you back. The pace of peace is not about doing nothing, right? It's not the absence of movement. It's the recalibration that we sometimes need for aligned accuracy. It's not the absence of movement. Doesn't mean that you're not doing anything. Doesn't mean that everything in your business is going to dry up. It may feel like that for a moment. It may feel like that for just that season. But it's really about showing you how much you can really get accomplished without always feeling like you have to do the most. I don't know about you, but over 40 years of doing the most, your girl is tired. I just want to do good work, be a blessing to the people that I'm called to, and also enjoy the fullness of my life. I want to be able to know that I did a good job, well done, in each one of the pillars that make up who I really am. Not just what people see on the internet, not just what people see on television, but the fullness of who Patrice Washington is. And I believe that really looking at not the path, because the path is beautiful and purposeful, but the pace of the path allows to really hear more divine direction without the interference of burnout, of exhaustion, of external voices, of external applause, just the sheer ability to go, I'm still in motion. I'm still making progress. I'm still moving. I just don't have to do it all today. I get to choose a pace that honors who I am and where I am in this season, right? And I believe that certainty comes from clarity, but a lot of clarity comes from stillness. And many of us that consistently feel confused are probably not taking enough time to actually be still, to listen to the small voice, to listen to the whispers, to listen to the nudges that our soul is always trying to put in front of us. I did an episode years ago called Life is Always Speaking to You. And I do believe that life is always speaking. We're usually just too busy to hear. we always really know which way to go. We either won't be still enough to hear it, or we don't trust it because it hasn't been validated and confirmed by someone else. So in this season, I want to normalize stillness and a slower pace and a more peaceful pace. I want to remind us all that rest and margin is our birthright. There are other parts of our lives that don't have to do with career and hustle and grind and making it happen, that are waiting to be expressed and enjoyed through us. And if you don't know what that looks like for you, I do want to invite you to come in a little closer. You can talk to me about one-on-one coaching, which is very limited thanks to the pace of peace. But you can talk to me about one-on-one coaching, definitely at patricewashington.com, or check me out in the Redefining Wealth app. You might be watching this on LinkedIn. Feel free to send me a DM. But in Pillar Mastery, which is our foundational program, it's really an opportunity to look at where you're on autopilot in each one of the pillars, what's not serving you, what doesn't feel good to you anymore. It's an invitation to take inventory. And then we redefine, right, what it would look like. What if you did go at the pace of grace, the pace of peace, and you were living a life you enjoyed via each one of these pillars that felt really good? And then we look at actualizing, what is it going to take to actually make that happen, to put you in position to go at that pace, right? And it's different for each of us. It's an individual journey. It's a customized journey, which is why everything that we do surrounds, again, whatever your vision is, because the pillars are only used to protect your vision. And they give us a framework and a way to go about thinking about it, because if not, it's just a jumble in our minds. And so we want to normalize seasons of stillness so that we have the time to take inventory and see what's not working, what doesn't have the right pace and the right energy for us. Doesn't mean we have to give it up forever. Doesn't mean we have to give it up at all. The whole principle of being willing to lose is not that you will lose, it's that you're willing, right? The willingness is the ability to be radically honest and say, I've been living this way and I know it's not serving me and I want to do something about it. It's also the ability to know what you need to do. It's a whole nother thing to be able to own it, which is what I help people do, is own it so that you can go do something about it. Something I talked to my therapist about as well that day was recognizing that wanting to have the pace of peace does not make me any less ambitious. What I'm learning in this season of my life is that ambition doesn't have to be loud to be real. Ambition doesn't have to be loud to be real. There is so much good work going on in the world that doesn't have to be posted on social media all day long. It doesn't have to be broadcasted. It doesn't have to be put out in your email list. Back to what Steve Harvey said, we don't get what we want, we get what we believe. What if we believed that we could have ambition and also have peace and a sense of alignment that feels good, but doesn't put us in a place where we have to constantly be talking about it? I'm not saying that we don't talk about things. I'm not saying we don't market ourselves, promote ourselves. But there's this sense, I will say, at least amongst my clients in my community, where visibility means always being on and ignoring the pace that feels best for you. And I genuinely believe like peace is a worthy pursuit, especially in a world that is so loud and so distracting and forever trying to get our attentions and get us off vision, that when we can build in some peace and take a step back and go at a different pace, right, we'll see that we can have the prize. And the prize is whatever the desires of your heart is, without the exhaustion, without the self-abandoning, without the burnout, without inauthenticity, without so many of the things that many of us have traded in our peace for over and over and over again. So I just stopped by today in this episode to encourage you to also consider your pace of peace. What does that look like for you? What do you see for yourself in each one of the pillars? And is it possible that you can still have everything you desire and leave the stress, the struggle, the strife, the strain out of the equation? That's it for me. I hope that this episode was a blessing to you. At the time of this recording, if you're looking for a moment of stillness, I still have 2 spots available to join me in Hawaii. We are going to Kauai, July 13th through 18th, and it is the perfect place to get some stillness. Myself, Amberly Lago, and Brooke Hemingway are doing a mastermind collaboration, bringing our communities together. We'll have about 40 women or so with us, and don't worry, we are not teaching every day, all day. There is some teaching. There's definitely networking. There's definitely fun surprises, but it's going to be an opportunity for you to get still, whether it's on the beach, at the cabana, visiting a waterfall, in the pool, whatever that is. You're going to have an opportunity to get still and think about when you return home around July 19th or so, what is the pace that you want your life, your business, your career to operate with? And you'll have an opportunity to just share space and conversation and have those divine connections with brilliant women from all over the world, from all different backgrounds. We have corporate leaders, government leaders, entrepreneurs, every sector pretty much represented. And I know it's going to be a beautiful time. So if you're still interested in anything like that, check the link in the show notes. You can also go to patricewashington.com/retreat to fill out your interest form. And I'd love to have a 10, 15-minute conversation to see if you're a good fit and if we could really host you and have a beautiful time with you in Kauai. So if stillness is on your agenda for this summer, please consider joining us. And that's it for me. I'll be back next week with our final episode of this season. Next week, my daughter will actually be graduating from high school. And so I am going into sabbatical to enjoy this last summer. And so I already know the theme of next week. It's called I Won't Go Back. I think it's going to be a beautiful episode. Would love for you to join me there. But until then, you can find me in the Redefining Wealth app, where I do still go live every single day. Tell me what you thought about this episode, what your takeaways are. What does the pace of peace look like for you? And I'll see you next week. Until then, I want you to live your life's purpose, find fulfillment, and earn more without ever feeling like you have to chase money. I'll talk to you later.